Hey guys, this is DJ from the Culture War, and I'm back with shawni, and I have a topic to discuss with you. I went in a whole research phase thing that took me a little bit before we started, so shawni was just patiently sitting here. But I think I have something, a nice little yarn to weave.
Hey guys.
And then she only says, "Hey guys."
What else do you want me to say?
I don't know. Okay, so Luca, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie. It's a pretty good movie. So there were articles that started coming out because people started taking their headcanon a little too seriously and saying that Luca, well, as you see in the title, Luca may not be a gay narrative, but it's absolutely a queer one. Now, I think we kind of touched on this in another video I did previously. That video, I haven't edited that video. It was the Kink and Pride video. But me and shawni discussed basically how the gay identity and the queer one are like, they've separated it out, and the queer identity is more of an activist-y one rather than the actual, gay identity or homosexual identity or what have you. So let's go into this, and basically all of this is I'm gonna preface this and say, essentially, these are people that have a certain headcanon and want these things to be projected in different mediums, films, different works, and they're using their own subjective interpretation of it and trying to make people accept it as either canon or at least valid interpretations. A lot of these people are more so doing it because they want this to be canon, and they get very angry at you when you tell them that their headcanon is not actually canon, because to them it works, and artistic works, because they call it artistic works, are inherently subjective, and there are underlying interpretations that can be pulled out even with the art, even if the author does not intend for those interpretations to be lifted out of the works. So let's get, because yeah, this goes into a whole, like, I'm about to go into like a whole discipline, sociology discipline and all that in a second, once we get through all of this.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go through some things. I'm going to read through the passage. So the person says, the internet age have made queer reads of canonically non-queer media more widespread, but they are nothing new, and neither is the reactionary resistance against them. You'll see throughout this text I've highlighted very specific things that I want you to pay attention to. So basically, any resistance against this is reactionary. It's reactionary resistance. Basically, you want things to stay the norm. You are reacting because things are progressing forward, and you are reacting in a negative way in order for them to stay how they were previous. This is a term that leftists use in order to shoot down criticism of their opponents. Anyway, continue. Even in 2021, in spite of the growing acceptance of the LGBT community and the study of and a steady increase of queer representation across certain sections of media, queer reads of characters and narratives are still receiving backlash. Often that backlash is coming from writers, directors, actors behind a given piece who seem eager to stomp out any potential perception of their work as a queer narrative. For some reason, those creators never seem to consider the inherent value of these reads provided the community, even though they are drawing on tropes derived from the community's personal experience. So they're assuming that any type of, as we'll see as we further read into this, any type of bond, emotional bond between people are inherently taking from queer experiences, rather than these are experiences universal to all individuals. shawni's face. You want to say something before I continue?
I'm just like, but why though? They sound like Destiel strippers.
They basically are. And that's why I brought Shawni, because I wanted her to talk about stuff like that. This came up in the recently with Anthony Mackie. I'll touch on that too. And Sebastian Stan's portrayal of Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, The Falcon and Winter Soldier. Many fans read the close physical and emotional bond that Sam and Bucky developed throughout the show as a possible romantic stirring. While the series said nothing definitive on the matter, Mackie quickly tried to squash the idea, bemoaning that two men cannot just be friends in these days without being perceived as queer. And then listen to this. While it's important for media to depict non-toxic male friendships, his response disheartened many fans who enjoyed their speculation on the topic and the ability to relate to the character in their own preferred way.
Yeah, so this is just like Destiel. Basically, what people were saying about Destiel was that Supernatural was queer baiting, and I'm like, listen.
That's right there.
Just because you have this headcanon and the show doesn't live up to your headcanon does not mean that the show is queer baiting. Like this is happening right now too with the Loki show, with Owen Wilson's character and Tom Hiddleston's Loki. And I'm like, at no point in time did the show Supernatural, from my experience, ever lead anyone to believe that Dean and Castiel were an actual like couple or would ever be a couple. Like it's not queer baiting. You're hallucinating. Delusion.
Well, the only thing about the Loki one is they purposely put in that he's bi, and then they were saying that Loki is bi because he can shapeshift.
Yeah, but Owen Wilson's character isn't bi, like, at all. Like, his character's a straight man. And I mean, yeah, Loki's bi. I mean, they
made him bi.
Yeah, they made him bi, and there's that little nod to that. But from what I've seen from like gift sets and stuff, like him and that female Loki are like a thing, and I'm like, is that considered Loki cest? Like, what is that? Like, I don't
know, but like, so the funny thing about that is, like, so the Loki thing, I can't remember if it was one of the writers or was the lead creative or director, she came out and she was like, I had been planning this for forever, and I really wanted Loki to be gay to represent me, and then she specifically said
I think it was the director. I believe it might have been the director. It was either the director or a lead writer. She came out and said that she wanted Loki to be bi because she was bi, and I was like, who cares if you're bi? This character's not canonically bi.
Well, they're just, a lot of these people go into for representation purposes and just things. The fact that they said that he was gay because he shapeshifts and he could shapeshift into a woman, I was like, yeah, but he does that to get what he wants, not because he's bi.
He does that to outright deceive people. So I'm kind of like,
God of mischief.
What are we doing here?
Anyway, let's continue. So, yeah, so Only the Ink goes readings away. They talk about the queer tendencies. Luca director Enrico Casarosa, I only said it like that because I probably would have messed up his name if I didn't, rapidly shut down the notion, saying I was really keen to talk about a friendship before girlfriends or boyfriends came into complicating things. After the movie's release, it became clear that how reductive this stance was. While Carosa believes his story cannot be queer romance because no characters become romantically involved, the story hits too many significant, familiar, common aspects of the LGBTQ experience for it to be ignored as a queer narrative.
After watching the movie, I'm confused as to what LGBTQ plus experiences it like has.
Oh, we'll do this. We'll go into this person's crazy ass headcanon. So this is spoilers ahead. This gets really deep into the narrative. And if you haven't watched it, just leave this. I might put a timestamp when I move on to the other articles I have here and the other examples of this popping up. But just so you know, this spoilers. All right. You fucked up if she's still here. Ostensibly about a society of fish people known throughout as sea monsters who live under the sea, concealed from humanity. Luca wastes little time in hitting beats that will be sadly familiar to so many people who have lived in the closet and or had to come to terms with their own identities.
But he's what? Like he's literally a sea monster. The reason why his parents think that and it's not even so much that, okay, what it is his parents are like, you're not a human boy. Like, okay, yeah, you can go on land and grow legs and look like a human, but because you have no human experiences, people are going to know there's something off about you. Whether they know you're a sea monster is a whole different, ball game. But that has nothing to do with him coming out of the closet. Like, it's none of this is him coming out. Like, this is literally just like this is like if somebody decided to write a think piece about how the Little Mermaid is like a lesbian like manifesto or some ish like that, because I'd be like, it's literally girl sees boy, girl wants to have legs to be with boy, girl sacrifices voice to be with boy, almost dies, saves boy, and they live happily ever after. Luca is literally like, young boy wants to experience the human world. His parents are afraid for him. He's afraid of what could happen because all the things his parents tell him about the human world. He meets another kid just like him. They experience the human world. The end. Like,
they become friends. So so to continue, as Luca is finally coming out of the water, and they put in quotations, of the water for the first time, he immediately assumes human form. At this point, Luca moves into documenting his struggles to come to terms with his identity, finding a community, and feeling betrayed or abandoned by his family. Luca panics about his emergence and is terrified of the physical changes he goes through outside of the water. It's a compelling image of a boy seeing himself for what he truly is for the first time.
What he truly is a sea monster, like, and he's a kid, but none of this is like, wow, I didn't think anybody could try and make this some deep like thing, because it's literally, he's never seen his human form before because he's never been out of the water.
But this could be just any out group. I can equate that to like black people in like the 20s. I can equate it to anything I want to if that's the case. But but just because parallels might be there doesn't mean that that's what the interpretation should have been. But
honestly, deducing down to who he truly is for the first time, deducing it down to just his outward appearance, that sounds like people who think that being black is a personality trait, like, or being gay is a personality trait. Like, that's what that makes me think of. Like,
yeah, so it says in clear parallel to conversion therapy, because this is the part where they talk about sending him to the deep and the family doing that, and this author feels it's a clear parallel to conversion therapy or wilderness therapy. So many young LGBTQ people were subjected by homophobic communities. Once Luca and Alberto arrive in the human town, the story moves away from Luca's journey of self-acceptance and his attempts to find kinship and community, instead focusing on the struggle to find his way in the outsider in a biased, unfriendly, wider world. And I'm going to skip forward. In some ways, plenty of the media in our own world still portray LGBTQ identities as other and makes them subject of violence or ridicule. When Alberto unmasks himself as a sea monster, Luca uses his passing privilege to avoid being targeted by the aggressive mob from the town, instead joining in on the abuse and persecution of Alberto.
Well, I mean, the whole reason for that scene happening was essentially Alberto started to become jealous of Luca and the relationship he was forming with a human girl in the town. It was very clear that Luca liked her and that he liked being her friend. They had a lot of really common interest in terms of Luca was really into astrology, and so was she. So science in general. And Alberto felt really left behind because him and Luca had started this adventure together, and he felt as though Luca was leaving him for, I forgot the little girl's name. I don't remember. I think it was Elena. I want to say it was Elena, but it might not have been Elena.
I don't think it was at all.
But yeah, and basically in doing that, Alberto acts like a uber jerk, and the whole thing is when they get wet, they revert back to their, sea monster form, and he decides he's gonna.
First of all, Alberto did that on purpose to show that they wouldn't be accepted.
Alberto was purposely trying to make them look like sea monsters again, to show that, basically Luca was living a lie and that he could never be accepted by the human world, and that essentially he was trying to isolate Luca and make him think that Alberto was his only friend.
He was being toxic.
Yeah, because Alberto's a sea monster. So I'm like, what movie was this person watching? Like, what?
Like, I mean, so then we go down to, it says it's a direct blow-by-blow metaphor for so many common queer experiences, push you into change, blah, blah, blah. Oh, while he suggested that Luca is a story about the type of friendship that can push you into change, push you into finding yourself, the movie clearly contains enough direct parallels to specifically LGBTQ experience that queer reading of the film is just viable. But again, at the same time, I can equate these things to any outgroup when you really think about it.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the LGBTQ anything in here. It honestly really isn't that at all. Like, I hate when people try to vicariously live through some of these stories in the most like convoluted ways, because this children's movie has nothing to do with the LGBTQ plus experience, like at all, and it's really annoying because it's like, on one hand, it's, boys should be able to have non-toxic, friendships. But then when you have a story about two boys having a non-toxic friendship, or men in general, like it gets turned into, oh, but they're gay, ting, like that damn TikTok, like why? Like, I'm so confused.
To a degree, I feel like a lot of these creatives, because a lot of them are straight, whatever, male, female, whatever. A lot of them, I think, have some weird fetish with gay men. In reality, in at least the female shipping space, they have an actual fetish for gay men. Like, it's an actual fetish. The same way they talk about like men having a fetish for lesbian women, it's the same.
I'm just looking through this and I'm like, this is basically them copy and pasting what they want in terms of like queer relatability and queer acceptance and queer representation. They're just kind of slapping it on top of everything that they see, and I'm like, stop. it's not there.
Yeah, so this is the point essentially what I was talking about, and ultimately whether viewers decide Luca parallels their own stories isn't for a director, writer, actor, or marketing department to dictate. Creators don't get to decide what messages viewers should take from the narrative. Viewers' relationship with a film or any media is subjective, built from their own interpretations as they bring elements from their own lives into their reading. That can open the door for unintended queer readings of any work, but once the story reaches its audience, it's out of the creator's hands. Crucially, creators aren't always fully aware of the layers of experience they are mining, or what their work can be representing to any given audience. So basically, if you're a creator and I take your work to mean something that you didn't intend for it to mean, it doesn't matter, because as the viewer, I get to dictate your art, because art is subjective. Even if there are specific concrete themes or beats that you're trying to hit with your narrative, I can take that, revert it, reconstruct it any way that I feel like it.
I mean, that's cute if you want to write fan fiction, but then don't go at the creator when they outright tell you this is not what my work is. Don't come and tell them that they're wrong. Like, there was an exchange like that on Twitter about with one of the lead writers, I think, of Legally Blonde. And it was like the Washington Post or New York Times or somebody was circulating this article about how the original ending for the movie was that Elle, and I forgot the other character's name. I think her last name was like Vanderbilt. But basically, the Reese Witherspoon's character and the like dark-haired girl who hated her throughout the entire movie, they were apparently supposed to end up together, which I'm like, that's not true. Like, what are you guys talking about? So apparently, like, they started spreading this article around, and the writer of the movie was like, "That's not true." And they were like, "Well, how do you know? What's your source?" And the lady's like, "I wrote it." I'm like, what are you guys doing? And then they really wanted to say, like, people really wanted to be like, "Oh, well, you know, she doesn't know what she's talking about. This is my headcanon." I'm like, I don't give a crap about your headcanon. Your headcanon is simply your headcanon. That's you. You can think that, but don't go around telling people that that's true. Like, what? Selma Blair's Vivian. Yeah, wow, I was really wrong about Vanderbilt. Last one was Kensington. But yeah, your headcanon is your personal headcanon. It's not, it doesn't become canon. And I swear, like, as someone who's in the supernatural fandom for as long as I've been, like, I see this all the time. This is super, super common. Very, 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 very common. What I think is even funnier is in this tweet, how that Max Pleasure person didn't even notice that the lady who's tweeting to her is literally in the picture.
And then wanted to say, "Oh, what's your source that says that that's not the interpretation?" I wrote the shit. I'm in the picture.
Like, literally wrote it. Straight up wrote it. And wanted to then ask us. I'm not gonna lie. Once I saw Drag King, I was like, Ikes. Like, I just want to know, like, there's this whole thing where all of a sudden now there's like drag kings, and that's a big thing. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cute. But damn, can't the drag queens just have their shine? Like, why is it always, this makes me feel like how you have women who go to a restaurant and order something that they don't really want just so they can eat off their boyfriend's plate as soon as the food comes. That's what this feels like. It's literally, this man has gotten his food, you're staring at your salad and you hate it. And as soon as his plate gets to him, you just sneak your fork in there to get a piece of his steak. That's what the drag king thing feels like to me. I don't know why, but it just does. It's like, damn, can you just step back, please? And then to see this person tweet this and get blown up by the writer of the movie was just even more hilarious. Whose source? Here's mine. The lady, literal woman's in the picture. Literally. Her profile picture on Twitter looks like her in the picture that she tweeted. Like, good Lord.
So then this is the end of this particular article, and it says, "And queer readings of text don't hurt anyone except people who find the concept of being LGBTQ intrinsically negative and believe that somehow lessens the media they want to hold strictly for their own interpretations and identification. Letting people have these readings without trying to shut them down only allows more people to enjoy the work positively." So then they bring up Mark Hamill, and sometimes Mark Hamill is a whole clown. So they said somebody apparently had a queer reading of Luke Skywalker and said that Luke was gay, and his response was, "I'd say it was meant to be interpreted by the viewer. If you think Luke is gay, of course he is. You should not be ashamed of it. Judge Luke by his character, not by who he loves." And I'm like, Mark, you just went in a whole circle. You told that person that if he's gay, but don't judge him by if he's gay, because it doesn't matter who he loves. Judge him by his character, not by his gender. So you're basically telling the person it doesn't matter, but at the same time it matters because that person feels that that's the case. But then again, Luke isn't gay at all. In any work, any medium, he's not gay. You're an idiot.
I feel like I just had a stroke trying to read that statement. Like, what? The hell is Mark Hamill doing? Mark Hamill must be down bad these days. He must be down bad these days, because what do you mean?
So then, so we have many things. So basically, I'm going to quickly talk about the Anthony Mackie thing. So this happened too with Falcon and Winter Soldier. And so his comments were basically, so many things are twisted and convoluted. There's so many things that people latch on to with their own devices to make themselves relevant and rational, which seems like a scathing remark to what's going on. But then he goes on to say the idea of two friends being gay, being friends and loving each other in 2021 is is a problem because of exploitation of homosexuality. It used to be guys can be friends, we can hang out, and it was cool. You would always meet your friends at a bar. You can't do that anymore because something as pure and beautiful as homosexuality has been exploited by people who are trying to rationalize themselves. You okay?
I'm just like, damn, this is even funnier after you've seen the Black Mirror episode with Anthony Mackie.
They talk about that.
Yeah, this is even wilder after seeing that, because that episode really does, like, it really puts a lot of what he's saying here into perspective, and even in a really interesting way. But I agree, like, basically Anthony Mackie is out here getting blown up by people who are just shipping, and they're upset that he doesn't ship their ship. And I'm like, it's your ship is Fanon, okay? Fanon. You have a Fanon ship, it's in your head. Write your fan fiction, draw your art, and leave the actors and the writers of this show the hell alone.
So they showed some nice examples of people disagreeing, but there's always like people that are insane. So there's another one with Frodo and Sam, because Frodo and Sam are gay now, apparently, because there's a whole thing going on. Like, just some guy talked about it with just the Tolkien society and the people coming into Tolkien's work trying to say that Tolkien was writing that there was a lot of queerness and gay stuff, and this article is basically the same as the Luca article in the sense that it's a lot of interpretation by this particular author of this article. They use quotes and things out of context. They don't talk about like the Hobbit society and how they are very communal, stuff like that. So like for instance, I have some things that I want you to show you to let you know about the writer's probably mental state. The author of this article says outside. So it says, I was 12 in 2003 when The Return of the King was in theaters, and Frodo kissing Sam goodbye as he left Middle Earth made me sob like my heart was being ripped out without understanding why. Outside of the safe darkness of the theater in the mortar-like wasteland of middle school, these movies were synonymous with favorite insults of the time. Gay. With the favorite insult. But and then they go and they say I couldn't read it, but for a long time I was avoiding it. For the same reason I learned not to talk about the movies at school. The accusations of queerness somehow tied to the story about elves, hobbits, and looming evil. And nobody was accusing the book.
Who's accusing?
It's just, again, it's writer interpretation. Say, okay, so we go down, but they do not read as intentional romantic when he's talking about the different platonic relationships that males have throughout the movie. And while fan interpretation is a diverse and wonderful thing, this essay is focused on author intent. So there's a lot of in here just taking things out of context, taking scenes out of context, interpreting scenes. Tolkien was a man who was a devout Catholic. All his stories had very religious themes. They were not very secular at all. He was not, if he wanted, and he was a linguist. If he wanted to make them gay, they would have been gay, and he would have made it very clear that these characters were gay, but they're not gay. Again, all reader, author interpretation of this particular piece. So we go down to the comments. I just wanted to point out, sorry, but this article comes across as someone projecting their homosexuality onto someone else's work. They are not here to either agree or disagree with their take when they're not, because Tolkien's dead. I know this may sound crazy, but you can love someone without actually wanting to be physically intimate with them. Who knew? Someone says you can absolutely have a loving, non-intimate relationship with someone and appreciate that more. I appreciate that more and more forms of media are approaching friendships in that way that they are as of late. While I am a 6-year-old male, I haven't connected with queer coding yet. Isn't the act of finding meaning and interpreting text the point of literature? As the article says, Tolkien was a scholar of Beowulf. And then it's so the comments, people are basically like, this person is interpreting this in a way that it's not actually how it's supposed to be interpreted, and you can do that. That's fine. But again, keep your fan on out of here.
I mean, yeah, this is basically this. Man, the Destiel shippers really spread their wings pretty far in terms of different fandoms. At the end of the day, if someone wrote the work and it's supposed to be this person, these are heterosexual characters and they're not gay, then why are we changing it and then trying to tell everybody and the author that, well, you're wrong? Because if one of these people who were making these claims made a character that was trans or bisexual or lesbian or gay, they would really feel some type of way if some cishet Chad came along and was like, nope, raging heterosexual, not gay, never, in a million years, completely straight. Like, they'd be really upset about it.
My fan on my headcanon, they're not gay.
Yeah.
But the story is about two gay couples. It doesn't matter. Not gay to me.
This is about two gay men. Nope, they're straight, but they literally have gay sex. Nope. Heterosexual, completely platonic, straight sex between men.
That was just two men trying to relieve stress. That's all that was.
Like, what? Like, they would be really upset about it. So I'm kind of like, why do you guys constantly overstep into other fandoms and do this? Like I said, write your fan fiction and chill the hell out.
I'm glad you said that, Shawni. So let's go into the whole where this comes from. So in reading these things, because this popped up several years ago during the prehistoric days of Gamergate, this popped up and it was essentially what we're seeing now, where it's the interpretation is left up to the audience. The author does not get to say how the audience interprets it, and you just gotta accept that. Oh well, boo-hoo. So I was thinking, where does that come from? I've heard this before. I know I have an idea where this comes from. And we go to critical theory, which is, a theory. And I'll quickly do, this is Wikipedia. So obviously it's, Wikipedia isn't the most, the best source of information, but it'll give you a gist of what's going on. So critical theory is an approach to social philosophy that focuses on reflective assessment and critique of society and culture in order to reveal and challenge power structures. They're saying, well, that doesn't really sound like, what's going on here. But there's more. There's literacy criticism, which derives from, which is just basically criticism of literacy that's been around for a long time. But what derives from that and critical theory is literacy theory. So literacy theory, why are you looking at me?
Because I'm just like, what the hell is going on here? I feel like this is one of those Russian nesting dolls. Like, every time you open up one, there's another and another and another. Like, this is like the worst shit lasagna I've ever seen. Like, that's what it is. It's just a shit lasagna. It's just layers and layers and layers of just dumb shit.
Where literacy criticism is just regular criticism of literacy, but then you have critical theory, which is more of the like societal critiquing society and looking at the power structures and how they intersect. And then you have literacy theory, which I'm going to go into more detail of. So literacy theory is the systematic study of the nature of literature and the methods for literacy analysis. Well, yeah, there's another thing that it goes into. So you might be saying, what is critical literacy theory? What is that? I don't get it. So basically, critical literacy moved the reader's focus away from the self in critical reading to introduce it to the interpretations of the text in different environmental and cultural contexts. This allows educators and students with an opportunity to read, evaluate, and reflect on text and embark on a creative process of actively constructing and reconstructing these texts. Embedded in literacy practices, critical literacy provides opportunities for readers to determine their ability to discern the purpose of text and also their ability to identify ideologies presented in the text As they read, individuals can accept, reject, or reconstruct the ideologies presented in the text to support their own life experiences. This knowledge construction or reconstruction of content empowers students to embrace their own conceptual perspectives and enables them to more critically evaluate other aspects of their lives. Some may interpret this examination and critique of text and process of reading as a form of activism or cyber activism in the online space.
Which is basically, you've got your fanon headcanon. It just goes back to what I said. Write your fan fiction and sit the hell down someplace.
And essentially that's what it is. It is fanon headcanon, but it has been given legitimacy in academia as a way to construct and reconstruct works to fit your own particular perspectives, and then have those perspectives, use those perspectives influenced by your life, your own experiences in life, to gain a new construction of the work. And all these constructions and reconstructions of the work are valid because you are drawing from your own experience. Therefore, it has some valid merit because there's nothing objective. Everything is subjective. Another thing that came out of Gamergate that I learned because of Gamergate. But all of this stems from academia and the sociology root of academia and the Shawni. I'm sorry. Shawni is looking at me like, what in the...
just what the hell? I couldn't be a writer and someone tell me that no, your interpretation is wrong, my interpretation's right, because headcanon. Like, what? I don't care what your headcanon is.
Well, they won't say headcanon. What they'll say is based off of my interpretations, because of my lived experience or my own perceptions on reality. These are my interpretations I've taken from your work. And also I have another, basically it's more of a critical theory written. Yeah. So basically it talks about how like the perspectives are taken to, influence one's life. I keep looking at Shawni and she's like, that's what they'll tell you. It's because art is subjective. I can rearrange and remash and reconstitute this as much as I want. They're not going to tell you straight out necessarily that's what they're doing, but as you've seen in the previous articles, it's all, this is my interpretation, this is my subjective. And it teaches in this one, it says like, basically that's what you do. It's your interpretation of it. There's no objective interpretation. And the whole point is also not to lift just the themes that are outright put in there, but the underlying themes that the artist may not have, or the creative may not have intended to necessarily be there, but through your interpretation of critical analysis of the world and society at large, you're able to piece together these underlying themes that even the author may not have realized they put in their book. So yeah.
Like, okay, but it's fanon. Get out of my face. Like, that's my reaction to that. Like, your headcanon, because this is what this is. It's a headcanon.
This is the academic explanation of that headcanon is basically canon. This is what we are reading. This is what I am showing you. Essentially, your headcanon. This is the academic justification for your headcanon. Taught in schools with your tax dollars. Have fun.
Oh no. Listen, man. I in the heyday of supernatural fandom, 2012, 2013 to like 2014, I tell somebody real quick, I don't give a damn about your headcanon. I don't care about your fanonship. It's fanon. Get out of here. I don't care about your interpretation. If you are trying to tell me your interpretation is canon because you interpret it that way, then you can actually eat a dick. That's how I feel about that.
Yep. So it all goes back. I mean, like I've been talking to people about these different things. Critical race theory is a hot topic in just society right now. And that's only the tip of the iceberg. There are many other critical analysis theories that are out here. As you might not have known about this. I just showed you another one. Critical literacy theory. Critical theory, postmodernist critical theory is different from early 1900s or the 1900s critical theory. So there's a bunch of things going on, intersectionalities in there. Postmodernism, Marxism, all of that it's in the same soup, and it gets mashed around, and people are different, experts on these different particular fields, like critical literacy theory and critical race theory. That it's critical whiteness theory is a thing. There's a bunch of these different things that are all under the same Marxist lens at the end of the day. So yeah, now you know a little bit more. Links will be in the description for these things. Also, my links to the Odyssey BitChute and mines will be in the description. Hopefully you guys really like this. I did a nice little bit of research here. It was quick research, and I should have read through this particular one, but I didn't. That's your homework. Have fun. You read and you learn more about how we can reconstruct and reanalyze and change the way we view things based off our own interpretations, because that's all that really matters.
Drink water, and your headcanon isn't canon. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
All right. So again, this has been DJ from the Culture War. Like I said, like, comment, and subscribe for more. And I appreciate all the people that have been listening and the people that will listen to this. Have a great day, night, wherever you are. Bye.
See ya.